Hey everyone. So I am here today to go a little bit deeper into something I wrote a blog post about, which is learning how to surf on data. And the context of that is that I've got two systems. I've got a training management system called Arlo, and I've got a database CRM called Salesforce. And in Arlo, we have training set up and people register and pay for those trainings, and we need that information to be in Salesforce. And that wave of data movement and keeping that constant, that's what you can often hear referred to as a data integration. So in the blog post, I talk a little bit about the difference that I learned about the differences between data migrations and data integrations. And I talked about surfing on this Google Sheet surfboard that I built to really help me ride the waves of data moving from one place to another. So we built a process in Zapier. I know it's Zapier. I call it Zapier. And that is the thing that brings the data over. So when something happens in Arlo, when a new person registers for a course or changes their registration, Zapier picks that up and follows some rules that we set up to bring the data into Salesforce or to update it in Salesforce. And to really be able to see that data, to ride it, to make changes and make movement on it, we needed a surfboard to ride it. And that here is the Google Sheet I have. So in the Google Sheet, we have one place where we bring in a report of data from Salesforce. So you've got, it's not as pretty as Salesforce, but it's basically exactly the same thing as Salesforce. It is the data in a row in Salesforce. So we bring in that data. That's a snapshot of Salesforce. We bring in data from Arlo also. Again, Arlo's pretty. This is not, but it is the same thing. So we bring in our data from Arlo, a snapshot, and we want to make sure that these things match, that the data in Salesforce matches the data in Arlo. So I needed a couple of other tabs to tell me, do they match? Now I haven't done the data update yet to see what's the current state of Salesforce, what's the current state of Arlo. Let's do that. Let's ride this data wave on this surfboard. So right now I'm seeing a lot of, here's just a really quick, easy way for me to see the differences in numbers that we have. I also have a couple other sheets that show me differences in the numbers. But the first wave of data is going to come in from Salesforce. We're going to update our Salesforce. I'm using an extension called Salesforce Connector. Really nice. It just lets you run a report of Salesforce data into your Google Sheet. And I will run that update. And while that updates, I'm going to also, I wish I had the same kind of connector or a really nice way to do the same thing for Arlo, but I don't. I have to use a link to go to a report in Arlo, download it, and copy and paste it into here. So I'm going to go ahead and do those two things. I'm going to update the data from my two systems into this sheet, and I'm going to pause the recording while I do that, and then I'm going to come back when it's all set. Okay, so I have now updated my data, and I'm going to use my surfboard to ride this wave. So let me see if I can show you a little bit. So on my kind of rudimentary overall dashboard, data quality dashboard, I see I've got a difference between the numbers in Arlo and the numbers in Salesforce, difference of 10. And we got some other differences going on here too. So I've got a couple of places that I could check. If I want to see where are these discrepancies, which of my courses, the trainings that I offer in Arlo that I then bring back into Salesforce, which ones are the ones that have different data. So I've done a little formulas and color coding to see, okay, these are the ones where we're seeing some discrepancies. All right, so I gotta ride my wave along these courses to see what is going on, because they should be matching. A lot of these are just off by one, so it's not a huge deal actually, even though you see a lot of courses that are not in green, but that's not a huge deal. I also have a place where I can just check individual discrepancies. So where do we have a mismatch between our records. I got to have a little true false thing going on here. And in a lot of cases, I have already been doing this for a while. I've learned how to ride this surfboard, so I know I'm looking to see where is the first false, where something doesn't match here. So my computer's moving real slow here, but I'm going to go down and see where is the first false match. I know this looks a little scary, but it's really not. Okay, that's because I have a lot of falses going on and my computer's moving slow. So I'm just gonna scurry my way down to where it says false and check out what the first one is. So this is like a wave of data that came in, right? We updated our sheet here. It has a huge amount of data in it. And now I have to write it to see where the wave's taken me. Where do I need to make any course corrections? All right, so here's the first one. Somebody registered with the registration number 72882, and I didn't get that registration in Salesforce. So I'm going to go over to my Arlo tab. I could go into the Arlo system to check this, but I don't have to. I have a representation of that system right here. I'm going to see what is that registration ID, what is it about them that made it so that they didn't get into Salesforce, or maybe they did get into Salesforce with a different registration ID. And because I've learned how to surf this data, it took a while at the beginning to get it. I was checking all over the place, but because I've been doing it and practicing it with deliberate practice, now I know, okay, after I see that first false, I come over here, I look for that ID, I see what class they were in or what course, I go over to Salesforce, I go to see what's going on with that one. I just know, how to ride these waves. So the surfboard here is the spreadsheet that's helping me go between my systems and look at the data and understand where they're different, because the goal is for them to be the same. And as I find things out, I might make changes right here and then in the system to make things all match up. So if I look up and I see, this is the wrong ID number, went to the wrong person, however it is, I can make that change here to see if that fixes the problem, if that makes everything match up. And then I can go make that change in the system. And sometimes I have to go back to the rules that I set up in Zapier to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So that's all it is. That's the data surfboard right here, and that's surfing the data. It's giving me what are two separate systems that kind of hide their data behind their user interfaces. They're not trying to hide it in a nefarious way. It's just you don't see it like in this spreadsheet view. You don't see the back-end database that's holding this data. This surfboard is a way to sort of see that, to be able to ride these waves of the data and to make corrections where we need to, and to learn from it. So I hope that this is inspiring in some ways to help you to know that if you have two systems that need data to talk to them, you definitely can make that happen. You don't have to have a built integration. You don't have to have coding knowledge necessarily. But you do have to know that this is not a one and done, set it and forget it kind of thing most usually. You will likely need some materials to build a surfboard with and to surf your data and keep it going. But luckily, it starts out hard, just like surfing or any board sport. It starts out hard and you fall a lot and you get hurt. But once you do the deliberate practice and you keep riding, it is such a fun and such a joy. So I would love to hear from you if you have ridden on this surfboard or made your own, or if you have some oceans and waves of data that are going through your programs, your systems, your organizations, and you just need some materials or boards to help you ride that. So let me know, and I hope I can pass on more of this learned experience, and we can share and I can learn from you too.